All right. Good morning, everybody. We're so excited to have Erin Moon with us today. I know I said this. We've been, I feel like doing podcasts and streaming video so much this week because we just had our Charleston launch. But one of the things that we said as we gathered the women for Charleston and who we were going to interview as we launched there was we had other women share, hey, you've got to talk to this person. And so as the day kind of came to fruition, it was so fun to then see like these women come together. But Erin, you are one of the women in Birmingham that everybody has said to us, like, you have to have Erin Moon on. And I love that. And, I say that now too to our members because, anybody y'all want to hear from, people in the community that we know and love, like send us an email, tell us who you want to hear from. But anyway, Erin, thank you for being here today. I want to intro you with your on your website that looks like it's being worked on, but please don't.
It is.
Okay. I have to read this because as Lauren and I have worked on creating the Wealth Edit website, we're updating it right now. All the branding stuff, even with Somerset, our private wealth management group, it's a lot of work. And when you see one that you love, it's so like, you're like, that's impressive. Just because you really, once you've done it yourself, you realize how much work and time goes into it.
It's like being a mom. You don't really appreciate your own mother until you've had to like pull a turd out of the bathtub for the fourth time during the day.
Exactly. So this is Erin's intro. I'm going to take it straight from her website. She's like, hi, I'm Erin. I do things. I write and edit Bible studies and devotionals. I'm senior creative for the Popcast Media Group. I'm the resident Bible scholar on the Bible Binge podcast. I'm a story coach and director for ARC Stories. I also do story coaching for organizations and workshops. I make ridiculous Instagram stories. I weirdly do a lot of voiceover work. I have some kids. I have a husband. We live in Alabama. You can ask me to do things for you here. I love that. I was like, okay, well, I know exactly what she does, and that's perfect.
Right. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
But it also gave so much of your personality, which I love the contrast of like you're really covering some heady stuff, but with a lot of humor. And so
yeah, I just don't think I can't personally deal. There's a Tina Fey joke where she says, yes, I like to make light of everything, but it's only because I was really bad at math. And that could be like my own personal biography statement. I'm just hiding the pain or dealing with pain or sadness. And I make jokes while I do it. It's great. We have a great time. It's not annoying at all.
I too have the same trait. And even this weekend, I started laughing at something and everybody's like, I can't believe you're laughing at that. And I said, I'm sorry. This really doesn't have anything to do with that. It's like all internal with me. I'm so uncomfortable. Like I can't help but not laugh.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So I get it. Well, Erin, why don't we just start off and tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe dig into a couple of the things, but we have a lot to cover because you really do. You're doing a lot.
Yeah, it's too much, says everyone else in my life. So, but I am, you did a great job with the bio, so I'm not sure what else there is to say. I'm a former theater major. My parents are super excited that I am technically using my theater degree. They did not think that was possible, and I proved them wrong. Just like I said I would. So, but we live here in Birmingham. I have 3 kids and I used to work in ministry and I have left ministry and work for the Popcast Media Group now. We have a couple of shows. I host a solo show. We also have a couple of partner shows. And so we have a good time. It's a weird industry that you can make a living in now that we had no idea would exist when we were in college. So,
well, and it sounds like, everything that I've looked at, I've listened to several of your podcasts and also just like looking at your social media presence, you've definitely figured it out and you're doing it well. So kudos.
Well, listen, here's the thing about social media. I have a quote unquote following because I accidentally peed on some Spanx at Von Mar once. So like just embarrass yourself, humiliate yourself, and you too can have a following on Instagram.
Yeah, they're always telling you to be your authentic self. So
well, it doesn't get more authentic than that for sure.
Okay, so you and we've talked, and we talked yesterday, and one of the things that I really loved, just kind of like maybe starting off the call with, was that when you shifted from like being in the ministry and like what that felt like to then kind of move into this new world where you have this media group and you're actually like being able to make some decisions about like how much you want to make, like where do you want to take this? Would you share a little bit about that? Because I thought that was just great perspective.
Yeah, when I worked for a ministry, I learned a lot of really great lessons in that. And one was my position, there were two of me, and the other person who had the same position as I had, it was a guy. And I found out much later that while we were doing the same thing and bringing the same amount of creativity and expertise to the position, we were not paid the same. He was paid more than me because he, whatever, he's a guy. That's a thing that happens in this world. And when I found that out, I wish that I had had some sort of handle or guide to help me like stand up for myself and help me learn that that this is not okay, and that there's a way to negotiate for yourself. There's a way to put yourself out there and show your value. And I think for so long, and I don't think this is really like just a problem in ministry, but I thought my job is creative. It's superfluous. I'm so lucky to be here. And I was really grateful for my job, but I also brought a lot to the table. And it took me a really, really long time to understand the value that I brought to my position. And in fact, I don't think I fully understood that value until after I left. And I saw, like people really find the things that I happen to be good at to be extremely valuable and worth paying for. And that was really exciting for me. And so when I came to the PMG, I remember I think I told you this yesterday, one of our very first meetings that we ever had, we sat down and it was like a big yearly, like, what are our goals? And one of the questions was, how much do you want to make this year? And I was like, what? I'm sorry. Is that an appropriate question? I hear my grandmother whispering in my ear that that's not an appropriate question. Also, I have no clue how to answer that question because for so long I have just been like grateful for the money and I was like that. Being grateful and understanding that there can be a different way don't have to be mutually exclusive, obviously. But I think that was such an empowering moment. And I really feel like it empowered me to care even more about the work that I was doing. And to know that this is valuable. We see that this is valuable and we trust you to do the work that we've asked you to do. And so that was a really powerful moment for me to understand my worth as an employee and as a creative person.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I can say from personal experience, it's so interesting when that flip switches. So like for me, for so long, my husband was the primary breadwinner and I was working sort of like to supplement. I mean, and even if we were making the same thing, like for whatever reason, that was just the way my brain saw it, and frankly, how my husband saw it as well. And I think maybe that was probably from a standpoint of, oh, well, I probably, when I have babies, will at least back off for a while and just be part-time or, whatever that is. And so for whatever reason, I never really saw my job as like something that I wanted to like invest my heart and soul in. And now going into this new direction where I am like the sole breadwinner in my family, and I have to say, how much do I need to make this year? Like,
yeah,
need, however it is, it's a necessity that I hit certain goals there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And to your point, but what's been so interesting is it has like flipped a switch into me now where I am so much more invested in
Oh,
my
yeah.
work, but my heart too, so that I'm deriving more joy from it.
Yes.
And I think about it because I'm like, oh, this is like what Joe felt when he was building his business. And like, a lot of men feel that way and
Yeah.
women don't.
And I think there's like this aspect of personal responsibility too. Like I care so deeply about the things that I create and I put out. And it's because, I mean, it's part of it is because I know that I am a direct influence on the money that we make in the company, but also I want it to be so good. Like I want to take it up, more levels every time because I am so personally invested and I feel a personal responsibility to that. And previously, I think I enjoyed my job. I liked my job. But I didn't feel that same kind of, I really care about this. This is deep. And I'm so grateful for a job where I genuinely love the work and I get to choose. And I think it's that aspect of trust. And that all works together for that personal responsibility to say like, well, this is something that I really care about because one, my name is on it. And two, I know that I'm a direct influence in the success of this whole thing. And I think that's really powerful.
I think it's really powerful. And it's one of the reasons why I think we all talk about, and this is like with a strong caveat that we all find these things at different times in our lives.
Oh yeah.
And some people may find their passion being at home with their children. I mean,
oh my
I think
gosh.
we all are called to different roles and, in different seasons where we're plugging into those different places. But it is so beautiful when those purpose and that passion and your career intersect, or
Yeah.
how you're choosing to spend your days. And it's worth fighting for and looking for and striving for. It just really is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
Okay, so you are kind of letting your purpose and your passion and your career all intersect. So tell us a little bit more about like what you do. Like tell us about the topics of your podcast, because I love some theology, and you do it. I just was raised Presbyterian. Shout out to Kim over here. But like I can't, like that's ingrained in us. But the way you do it is so relatable, and so somebody once called me that I was irreverently reverent. And
I like that.
And when I was listening to you talk, I was like, she's irreverently reverent. I love
it. Someone referred to me as spiritual 7-layer dip the other day. And I was like, I'll put that on the tombstone. Honestly, that's what I want. But I think for me, I grew up Southern Baptist. You said you grew up Presbyterian. I think for me, when I was learning about my faith and learning about the ways that God interacted with the world and, all of that, it felt like this is the encapsulation of all of human knowledge. And we are fixed on this point. We have figured it out. This is it. Good job, everyone. Move on with your life. Apply these principles to your life and you're good to go. And I think the older I get, the more I understand that this life of faith, this religion, Christianity, spirituality is fluid and has been for a very long time. And we're still learning. We're still arguing about things. We're still discussing things, working things out, untangling things. And that to me is so important in understanding our beliefs and what we adhere to and the things that are important to us is knowing that, yes, we have not come to the culmination of all human knowledge in regards to spirituality. Like we are still working it out. It's still like, I often use the metaphor of getting like a bunch of necklaces and like an old jewelry box and opening it up and there's a tangle of necklaces, and it's going to take time to untangle those knots, and some knots are worthy of being untangled, some it's okay if you leave them. And so I think that is really important to me, and I love making that accessible. I think the Bible was written by people and for people, and it is yours. And that's making that accessible and having that understanding permeate anytime I do a show or anything like that is really important to me, is that this belongs to it's the same thing that you guys are doing, right? Like, this information belongs to you. You can access it. It's not just for scholars. It's not just for financial advisors, or, it is for you. And when you can get empowered to take responsibility and ownership of your financial life, of your spiritual life, then it's going to mean more to you. And you are emotionally invested. You are, physically, mentally invested. And I think that's so important. And that's really, I would say that's the crux of what we're doing, even though we have a comedy podcast that is like about, retelling Bible stories as if they were Game of Thrones. So, that's the heart behind the jokes, but that's kind of that's my passion for sure.
Yeah. Well, and you study. I know you have to study a lot. How do you get that into your work week? Because like, I was listening to one on the way home from South Carolina yesterday, which I thought was fascinating. It was on the Enneagram. And I'll be completely honest with you, I had no idea the history of the Enneagram, how it went all the way back to the Desert Fathers.
I didn't either.
And how, like, because I really honestly had no clue that there was even any controversy around that with the church. I mean, I thought it was just like, oh, I'm a 3, like whatever. And so, I mean, how, like, do you do all that research on your own?
Yeah. So right now we just recently have hired some community managers, and which has been huge to take off a large burden off of all of the content creators' plates. So that's been really helpful. And yeah, I read a lot. I study a lot. I listen to a lot of audiobooks on 2-speed because I got to get through them. Yeah. But like right now I'm listening to a great courses on Jane Austen on like 1.7. And I'm like, I got to get it all in, because it does feel, because it's so fascinating. So much of our world has been permeated by religion and faith and spirituality, and we just don't know that it has roots in that. And so it's fascinating to learn, Jane Austen, her father was a minister, and they spent the majority of her life until she was a teenager working, living in the rectory, and all of this sort of stuff. It's really fascinating to me, and I love to learn. I'm super curious. I will frequently do Wikipedia deep dives to go to sleep at night. I just like do clicks and see where I can go, see where it takes me. But it's work that I enjoy. And so it rarely feels burdensome, but it is a lot for sure.
Okay. I want to get to storytelling. There's so many things I want to get to, but how do people find this podcast?
It's on. So my main work with the PMG is through the Bible Binge, and that's the name of the show. And we have 3 shows on that feed. And one is the Bible Binge, which is recapping stories like that you would Game of Thrones. And then there's Favored or Forsaken, where we take something that's like, Kitty knows, she's nodding. We take like Dave Ramsey and say, okay, what is not his soul? We don't judge their souls. That's Holy Spirit's job, but their public witness, is that favored or forsaken, or, trending cultural topics around Christianity or faith. And then my solo show is Faith Adjacent, which is what you were talking about, the Enneagram. Mm-hmm. And so we mix those up throughout the month, and you get a nice little buffet of fun content, I think. Yeah. So,
well, it is fantastic. I would encourage everybody to listen there.
Thank you.
You do really great work.
That's
okay.
Really
another thing out of that you do that I'm really interested in is I know you work with storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
working with people, coaching on how to share their story. And I know you do it locally with art stories, which I hope it's coming back really soon. It's one of my favorite things. And
It is coming back soon.
yay. I like, as the world reopens, it's
I
like
know.
all the things that maybe we once took for granted. Now we're so excited about.
Yeah.
So tell me how you got into story coaching and like why you think that's so important.
Yeah, one of my good friends, Taylor Robinson, you know Taylor. He and another one of our friends wanted to do this kind of like the Moth type of a thing, in Birmingham. We love the Moth. It's a great. We've had some storytellers connect with the Moth and go to New York and tell stories from Birmingham, so which is really cool. And but we started out in Taylor's, Second Avenue studio with like 40 of our friends, just like being weird and telling each other stories. And then it just gradually grew. And what was really cool is that, we all, Taylor's a storyteller from a video perspective. He does video work. He's an excellent storyteller. There were so many of us who were writers or, playwrights or screenwriters. And what we really wanted to do was take normal, regular, they wouldn't classify themselves as creative people, although I think everyone is creative in their own way, but and help them tell a story in front of a live audience and with no notes. That's the whole thing. And so part of my volunteer work with them is story coaching. And so what we do is we take someone, we'll submit for a show, and we kind of take the ones that we, mix them up, trying not to get similar stories, trying to get a diverse voice for the evening. And we assign a story coach to them. And then me and that person, we sit down and, okay, like, tell me your story. Give me your story in chronological order. Oh, tell me more about this. And it is so much fun to watch someone who has never done anything like this. I'm a theater major. So I'm like, stage, great, let's do it. I'm ready. But that's not true for a lot of people. And it's so much fun to watch, the vice president of Regions Bank, who has never told a story like this in front of an audience. He's really good at presentations and all of that. Get up and tell a story about a time that his life changed, and it's moving and it's meaningful for so many people. And I think storytelling is, biblically storytelling, we have so many of the early Old Testament because of oral storytelling. And I think that's what you guys are doing, right? Like all you're doing is you're telling stories. That's how we communicate with one another. And so it's really, really fun to teach someone how to tell a great story, to watch them kind of live in, something they never thought they could do, and the audience go wild at the end, or, come up to them afterwards. And it's just a rush. Oh my gosh, it's so much fun. So I can't wait for it to come back. But I think telling your story is so impactful because it reminds people that we're not alone. And it reminds people that you may not know anyone in your, maybe your story doesn't resonate with me on a personal level, but on a human level, I think we can all find things to connect with each other and know that we really are, it sounds cheesy, but we really are in this together. I really do believe that.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And I think that, like, at the Wealth Edit, that's why we started Wealth Edit Wednesday. I mean, that's why when we go to a city, we interview all the women, because what we found is, like, women especially, like, when you hear a story about something that could be intimidating, like theology, finance, whatever it is, like, hearing it in a story format takes away any of that anxiety of, like, I might not be able to get it. Do I have to take a test on this, or
Yeah.
anything where they can share what's going on. I mean, like, back to the beginning of our interview today, where, you're sharing about your experience with a discrepancy in pay, and, how that affected you, and how you wish now, like, maybe if I had known what I know now, I would go back and probably handle that differently.
Yeah.
And it's, so, like, with finances, maybe just hearing your story today, somebody listens to your podcast a month from now, it's kind of in a similar situation at work, and they're like, well, Erin said she wished she had done that. And now I realize I can actually do that, or at least like open the floor for the conversation.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
just gives you like a little like burst of confidence and empowerment of, she did that. I heard her story. I connected with her, and I'm going
Yeah,
to do
I
that
think you're
too.
right.
And that's like where, like, on a very base level with the wealth that it is, we're trying to weave that into everything that we do so that women hear these stories. And I'm like looking at everybody that's on the call today. I mean, y'all are some strong women that have done some cool things. And, we all have that story to tell, some way
Yeah,
to encourage others. So I love what you're doing, and I'm very excited to hear that that's coming back.
me too. I'm so
Yeah.
pumped. I cannot wait.
Okay, so as we wrap up today, I have one last question. That is, if somebody wants to start a podcast, I'm asking for a friend. I know Lauren's listening here. Oh, you have all the cool equipment and everything. Like, what do you say is like the first thing somebody should do if they're thinking about starting their own podcast?
I think learn to get comfortable with uncomfortable feedback. So I think that was the hardest thing for me, especially because I started Faith Adjacent on the Bible Binge feed, which, you know, it's not like I started it in obscurity and then like got to learn as I went along. It was, you're going to start this, and the first day of downloads, you're going to have 30,000 people listening to it. And so it's just like, oh, okay, well, that's weird. And I think Knox and Jamie do such an incredible job. They are so good at what they do. And podcasting is hard. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's genuinely very hard. And to make good content. And I think I'm an Enneagram 3. And so I really, really despise showing someone the middle of a creative process. I'm just like, let me hoard it. You don't need to look at it until it's done and it's perfect. And that I had to really be disabused of that quickly, because it's that iron sharpening iron thing. You've got to be okay with someone being honest with you, with saying like, hey, you were talking here and I don't understand anything you're saying. Or you went off on a 6-minute rant about Thomas Jefferson, and I need you, like, it's great, but you got to cut that. It has nothing to do with what you're talking about. And so I think that is, and being okay with the process of learning to get better. That was, I would rather just it be good right out of the gate. And that's not always possible. So I think that is the best thing. Also, edit, like that's the same thing in writing. Stephen King talks about killing your darlings, like even things that you love that don't serve the greater purpose, like they have to go. And I think that is really crucial. I think it's hard to have a good podcast without a strong edit. And I've learned so much from Knox about editing, what makes a good show, what makes content really good, just based on that. So those are my two things, really.
Those are fantastic tips. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I do realize, I mean, I think just as we've started doing this sort of accidentally, the people that stop to like give us really like feedback, like at all, like this, like we're so appreciative of it.
Yeah.
And it really does help improve your work product. I mean,
and
really
I think
you can separate yourself enough to be like,
yes.
And
right. I think knowing who to listen to with feedback, when I was early with the PMG, I did a lot of admin stuff because we just hadn't expanded yet. And I would see like a bad exit interview on Patreon, and We have to change everything. Like, look, we've hurt this person and they've left and they have taken their $7 for the month. And we like, what are we going to, and Knox and Jamie were like, we can't change the entire way we do our business for one person. Like that's not valuable. Look at all the other people who are enjoying how we're doing this. Right. And I think knowing and having discernment about who to listen to is also super important.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being here
You're
today.
Welcome. This was so fun.
I know. We want to have you back and hear more. And I can't wait to like dig into more of your podcasts because I love to listen to podcasts. I listen when I drive around all day. So can't wait.
There's lots of content for you.
Oh, I know. Well, this is so funny, but it was like when in the Enneagram, you were like talking about the Nephilim, the angels. And I was like, oh, is there one on that too? I was like searching, but I was like, all these things that I've had in my mind that I can't wait to learn about. It's so fun. But okay, so we ask at the end of all our interviews, why did you say yes to the Wealth Edit today?
I think I love what you guys are doing. I think I said this to you yesterday, and I think I wish I would have had something like this when I was younger, or even now. You know, we have a clear delineation of responsibilities at my house. Ben does the finances, and I do the calendar. But I think it would be so beneficial, and I think it would have been so beneficial for me growing up to learn that there is a community of people that are a lot like me, that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to like not know, like, you know, I know what a mortgage is, but like, you just explain it to me. Like, you know, I just want to make sure, like, I think that's so valuable. And again, that's that storytelling aspect, right? Like, knowing that there are other people who have the same questions, who wonder about the same things, who are going through the same kind of process, I think is so valuable. So I love seeing ladies supporting ladies. That's my favorite thing.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me.
Hey, Kim, thanks for sharing. There is a great lunch and learn on starting a podcast by Knox and Jamie. So thank you, Kim, for sharing that link. We'll have to check that out for sure. That's why Kim's gotten such a nice, strong start on her podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. We hope to have you back again soon.
I would love to do that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Erin. Bye.
Bye.